Welcome to this video on using grammatically correct English. We are going to concentrate on the verb to have. T-O, to, H-A-V-E, have. I have already explained to you that when you add to the verb, that is the infinitive form of the verb, the root of the verb. Very often, the verb have is misused. I have given the grammatical explanation in a lesson of grammar, and that is the primary auxiliary verbs, a video which was uploaded many months ago on this channel. Today, I'm just going to give you examples of where have is supposed to be used, what are the many ways it can be used, but before that, where it is misused. That is most important because very often have is misused, and that is where the problem comes, the problem of using English incorrectly. Before we begin, let me remind you about the 5 things which I often say, and that is watching the videos completely. Many of you are watching a single video and asking for those topics which have already been covered. I request those people to look at the entire list of the 125 videos which have been uploaded on this channel in the last 5 months. Then you can choose what you think will be useful for you. Share and comment and like and subscribe if you haven't. After subscribing, please check the list to see which are relevant for you. Just now in another session, somebody asked me how to prepare for IELTS, IELTS exam. And I suggested that they need to see the podcast and the playlist on grammar and vocabulary already on the channel. And they need to see the listening and speaking videos. So that is how preparation is done. Now let us come to what I want to tell you today, and that is the verb to have. The verb to have is a primary auxiliary verb, as I have explained in a video on primary auxiliary verbs. All levels grammar, primary auxiliary verb is the name of this video. You will find it on the list of videos uploaded. Primary auxiliary verbs have 2 functions. One is they can function as the main verb in the sentence. They can do the entire verb function in the sentence. That is one. The second is they can act as a helping verb to a main verb in the sentence. The verb to have has both these functions. It can be used as a main verb and it can be used as a helping verb. Now, to have is the root. From the root, all the branches come out. You must have seen a tree, the stem and the branch. Like that, from the root, the 5 forms of the verb which come out are these. In the present tense, we have and we have has. Has is used only for he and she and it. All nouns in the third person, all pronouns in the third person, which are singular, use the form has. So we can say, he has a cousin. So he has a cousin. Now, very often this is mistaken, and that is what I will talk about first. But then let me tell you the other forms. Has and had, have, H-A-V-E, has, H-A-S, present tense. Had, H-A-D, past tense, and past participle also. Had is used as past tense, same had is used as past participle. Then you have having, H-A-V-I-N-G, which is the present participle. Now, the present participle is usually used in continuous tenses, but having is not a use which we should encourage. That is where maximum mistakes are made. I gave you a sentence just now. He has a cousin. If you say he is having a cousin, it sounds so correct. It sounds so good, but it is not correct. He is having a cousin is not correct. Although the structure is correct, is having, but in that form we don't use it. We can only use having in the non-finite form. You say that having some time, I read a book. Having some time. That having is a non-finite usage. What is non-finite? There is an entire video on it. So go to the grammar items and you will learn good grammar. Today I'm not teaching you good grammar. I'm teaching you correct usage. To use the language correctly. That is what is important. So the root form has have, has, had, having, and again had past participle. Present tense two forms, past tense one form, present participle one form, past participle one form, same as past tense. Past tense and past participle are both the same. That you have to keep in mind whenever you're using the word have. Having can be used informally only when you are eating something. You can say, I'm having dinner, but you cannot say, I'm having a house. You say, I have a house, not I'm having a house. Whereas if you say, I'm having dinner, that is correct. You cannot say, I have dinner. There you have to say, I'm eating my dinner, where you need to use the ing form because it is an action which is ongoing. So that ongoing action, having, please don't use. You say, I'm having fever. That is not correct. You say, I have fever. Why did you not come yesterday? Or why did you not speak to me today? Then you say, I have fever, not I'm having fever. Do you have some money in the bank? Do you have some money in the bank? Have is used here as the main verb and do is used as the helping verb. I've given you an entire video on the correct usage of do. Here again, you cannot say, are you having money in the bank? There, the better expression is, do you have and not are you having. Are you having some time? Not correct. Do you have some time? Not having, but have. This is the usage of the verb to have in the form where it is the main verb in the sentence. I have the desire to learn English. Not I am having the desire to learn English. So I have the desire. So you have subject, verb, object. Have is acting as the main verb of the sentence. So that is where the mistakes in the use of have is where you use having, where it cannot be used. I met my friend after having completed my work. Now you here having is non-finite. After having completed my work. That is how it is used. So I met my friend after having. No, not, I am having, you are having, he is having. That form, I have been having. Those forms are very, very rarely used. You can say, we have been having examinations, but you can say that we have been writing examinations. Some places it is informally, it is correct in some places. But in formal English, we use having mainly for the infinitive usage, not in the finite continuous tenses usage. Now, this is have as a main verb. I gave you examples of have as a main verb, and I gave you examples of have where having is used in a way which it should not be used. I'm having a son or I'm having a daughter. You cannot use this form like that. You have to say, I have a son or I have a daughter. This way it can be used. I have a class. If you're a teacher, you say, I have a class now. Not I'm having a class now. Not a form which is encouraged. So avoiding those is important. The main usage of have is for perfect tense and perfect continuous tense. Already uploaded grammar videos, lexical verb 4 and lexical verb 5 will tell you all the details and the rules and the structures. Have plus past participle is the form for perfect tense. So if we have present perfect, it is an action which is complete. But when it is complete? At the time of speaking. That means 1 minute before the time of speaking, the action is complete. Complete at the time of speaking. Past perfect is action which is completed much in the past. And future perfect is something which is yet to happen. It hasn't happened. It will be happening and completing in the past. Perfect tenses show complete action. So you say that I have read this book. That means action is over. Have read. I remember I have read this book. That means just now I finished the book. I have read this book. Simple. Now, if you want to say in the past, you read it 10 years back, then you say, I had read this book. Had, HAD, past form, past perfect. I had read this book. Although we spell it as READ, but the past participle is pronounced as read, RED, not as READ. The present tense is pronounced as read, and the past tense and past participle are pronounced as read. So please keep this in mind when you are pronouncing. So you say, I have read the book means I remember what it is. I had read the book means I have forgotten. It was so much in the past. By next week, I will have read this book. That means I'm reading the book now. By next week, I will have read. That means next week I will finish the book. That is a future form. So these are the future perfect form. What do we use? We use the tense of have and we use the past participle of the verb. Read I have given you throughout. Now suppose the main verb is also have. Some of you asked this comment in your comments. Therefore, I'm making this video. You know how to use have had, HAVE, HAD, or has had, HASHAD. Same, single verb, have had, has had, 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 will have had. Now, what are we using? We are using main verb have plus helping verb have. 2 times have is coming. And that is where the confusion, how to use them. The second time will always be the past participle, and that is had. So in this construction, the second verb will always be HAD. The first have will change its tense. I can say, I have had my vaccine. So I have had. Had means taken. Here it means that you have got, you have received. So you can use that. I have had my vaccine. There, what are you doing? You are saying have, perfect tense, had past participle of main verb have. Then you say, I had an examination which was difficult. So, had past tense, had past participle, together I had had. That means in the past, I took an examination which was very difficult, which was very tough. So, you are using the form had had. Now, you are using the future form. He will have had a few doubts by the end of the lecture. So you are giving a lecture to somebody, then that person anticipates that he will have had. Will have is the verb tense form, perfect tense. Had is the past participle, and some doubts, doubts is the object of the sentence. So he will have had some doubts by the end of the lecture. The lecture will end after an hour, and that person will have some doubts. That is how it is used. So if you are getting confused when have comes twice in a sentence, have had, has had, or will have had, then don't be confused. We are using exactly the same rule as the tense. Tense says that in perfect tenses, we use the form of the verb, that is the have tense, have in the tense form, and the main verb in the past participle form. Now, have has also a main verb usage, which I told you in the beginning. So, when you have the main verb usage, obviously you have helping verb is the same as the main verb. So, it comes two times. Nothing to be confused about. You will come across this very often. The police has had many such incidents in the past. So the police have faced this before, this kind of crime. So you say the police has had. Has because police is used as a singular form. I'll do a video on Concord where you will learn this. The police has had, or you use the form they have had. They have had a similar experience before. So there is a group. The travelers have had a similar experience before. So perfect tense using have as the main verb and have as the tense verb. Main verb in the past participle and the tense verb in the tense form. This is important. Now you also have passive forms of the verb. The passive form of the any verb, if it is in the perfect tense, then its passive form also uses the have. I have opened the gate. I have opened the gate. Have opened is the perfect tense, present perfect, first person. The gate is the object. I have done for you active and passive voice. So go to that video and check it out. The gate has been opened. So have becomes has because gate is singular. I takes have, it takes has. So the gate has been opened by me, you can say, or the gate has been opened is perfect English. No need because all the passive verbs are non-finite verbs. What is they are not intransitive verbs, not non-finite. I'm sorry, that is wrong. I'm very happy that some of you can find that I have made a couple of mistakes while speaking. That shows that you are listening to the videos with concentration. I feel very happy when my students tell me, but some of you are telling me things which are not wrong. You are making the mistake. then I need to correct you. So we correct each other, and that is how we all learn. Please remember that that is the best way of learning, by learning from each other. That is called peer learning. Peer. Peer means your age group, your similar group. So peer learning is learning from each other. Now, when we talk about this, passive form, I have told you that all passive verbs are intransitive, which means that they don't need a subject. They cannot accept a subject. Therefore, we put the preposition by. So the gate has been opened by me, we can say. Here we are using have and has for the tense verb. We are using it as a helping verb to form the tense in the sentence. So these are the five major areas in which we use have. One is have as the main verb, where you are using it to show some belonging, to show something which you already have, you possess. And then you have its main verb function, mistakes in the use of having, and then you have the tense form, perfect tense and present, perfect continuous tense. Have been speaking. I have been speaking to all of you for the last 6 months. So the process is ongoing, but it will come to an end at some time. A time will come when I will have nothing more to say. Then I will say the channel has so many hundreds of videos. Please don't expect any more videos to come. So this is, that continuous with end in the future. I have been speaking to you for the last 6 months. Or I had been speaking when I was interrupted. I had been speaking, it was continuing. Suddenly it came to an end because somebody interrupted me. This happens in regular lectures. If I go for a regular lecture, somebody might raise their hand, stop me, and ask questions. So these are the various ways in which we use have. And when we are using it correctly in the tense form, or as the main verb form, or in the passive form, or in the form as without using the form ing, then we are getting it correct. To use it together as the main verb and the helping verb is where a lot of confusion was there. I tried to clear that confusion. Let me give you some more examples of this before we end. I have had this pet in my house for the last few years. So you have a small dog or a cat or something. You say, I have had the pet for the last few years. Have had here is making use of the perfect tense of the verb have. The dog has had its various vaccines. Before you adopt the dog, you have to give some vaccine. So the dog has had all the vaccines. The dog has had its food today. The dog has had its bath last week. The dog might not want to bathe every day. So we are using has had. Or the police had had, I gave you some example of the police. The police had had some idea about the crime before it was committed. The police had long back, they knew a crime was coming, but they didn't know what was the crime. The bus had had an accident, but nobody was hurt. Had passed. This bus had an accident long back, but nobody was hurt. Had here is using the past perfect and verb have as the main verb also. When we use the main verb and the tense as past or past continuous, perfect continuous, then we use the have as the tense form. All perfect tenses, present perfect, past perfect, future perfect, uses have present tense, have past tense, have future tense, and verb in the main verb in the past participle. So if the main verb is have, we use had throughout, and we use the form of have. Similar is the case with perfect continuous tenses, where you have, you know, I have been having an infection. So I have been having. This form is allowed. It is not like I am having, you are having, etc., to show possession. I'm having a laptop. If I say, it is not allowed. I should say, I have a laptop. That is easier. Much of the ing form is best avoided and replaced by the simple present, not only for the verb have, but for the other verbs also. Instead of saying, I'm thinking, it's better to say, I think. Instead of saying, I'm seeing, better to say, I see. Instead of saying I'm smelling, better to say I smell. Instead of saying I'm tasting, better to say I taste. This ing form is to be used only specifically when it is a continuous action over a period of time in the present, past, or future. If you keep this in mind, then you won't make mistakes. Today's video was devoted only to using the verb to be. In case you to have, in case you have problems with the verb to have, then you have to practice it more. In case you read it, when you're reading, you find the use of have, please underline those. Try to identify, is it the main verb? Is it the helping verb? Is it a perfect tense? Is it a perfect continuous tense? Is it a passive voice or is it active voice? These, if you do, you will not make mistakes in the use of have, because the correct sentences will become embedded in your mind. So, this practice you can do starting today, that you look at the paper which you're reading, your newspaper or a book, whatever you're reading in English, every day I told you to read one page. I hope you're reading it. And when you read, find out how many times have is used. Have is a very common verb in English. So it must be there in the page. And see what is the use to which it has been put. When you learn through usage, grammar becomes very easy. All the best and thank you.